Hello, everyone. Welcome to Generation Dan. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Generation Dan. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Generation Dan. The podcast about generational differences. I'm Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is with me?
Well, hello and welcome to Generation Dan. How do you know the genetic marvel?
And our guest isn't here, so it's just going to be us again. But hopefully, we can get Raven Fraser to come on by on a future week. What's up?
Wow, you know what? That happens, right? Like realistically,
Yeah, it's happened. It's happened before, and it's not going to be the last time. I guarantee it
for sure.
Yeah.
And that's realistically, it's because our schedule changed, and we're bastards. So that's fair.
Kind of, yeah. Well, and the reason the schedule changed was it's my father-in-law's birthday, and I originally was supposed to go over there an hour later. So
Yeah.
we had scheduled this for that like at 5 like usual.
The
And
regular
then we're
time.
like, oh, we moved it back an hour. I was like, shit. So I had to,
You know what? See, this is the thing, is that it's very important, I find, to be on time or to have set times to do things. However, life never works that way. So it's like you try and appease people in general, but at the same time, you're just like, okay, how about this? I'm not going. How about which I'm like, I respect it as well, but at the same time, you're just like, well, nothing's gonna ever get done now. That's how life works. It's almost as if it keeps on happening in my life. I'll be honest with you, Alice. It just keeps on repeating itself.
In regards to what exactly?
All of them. I have crapped out and been like, you know what, guys? How about we just reschedule? And they're like, but maybe we could. No, you know what? I don't really want to do it right now. How about that? And then I've been on the other side with been like, I'm so sorry to reschedule you like this, and they're just like, you're a horrible person. I'm like, that's fair. That's a fair conclusion. I am a horrible person, and if anything, show no respect for your time. But
Sexy Gen slash Surge. How are you? Who's Surge?
Well, Surge is,
or is it Sirs like Surge? I'm confused.
I'm not. I don't know.
Or
what's up, Blocky Talkies? How are you doing?
Or is he just really into the energy drink or something? Sexy Gent slash this energy drink I have in front of me. How are you?
Oh, maybe he assumed that Surge was already watching. That's also possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a possibility.
That also happens regularly. So
yeah,
but it's see, that's the whole thing too. Is today's at a weird time why we're doing things a little bit earlier, and realistically, I have a question for you, Atlas. Is do you still enjoy celebrating your birthday?
I mean, I did. This coming year, I'll be 30, so maybe not. The thing is, though, with celebrating my birthday, I go through like waxing and waning enjoyment of having people around.
Yes.
But, like some years, I want all my friends around me, or like let's do something with my family. Every 5 years or so, I will tell everyone around me, leave me the fuck alone for 24 hours. I love you guys. I'll be back, but just like 24 hours. Leave me alone. And then that's it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it comes and goes. Why?
Yeah. No. So, I turned 40 in 2020.
Okay.
So that was like, oh, nobody's doing anything. Which, all right. Which I had mixed feelings about like. I remember when they were like, oh, we're gonna lock down for 2 weeks and flatten the curve. I'm like, that's how nothing works like that. I think we've had that conversation where I'm like, that's like a 6 to 9 month thing that it takes to do that, right? And it's not necessarily healthy. Anyway, I digress.
Plans never survive contact with the enemy. I doubt.
100%. Yeah. and at the same time, I was kind of like, what? I'm like, okay, so not allowed to get together. And then the rules were so weird, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm not going to have birthdays anymore. We could just disregard it altogether. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm okay with it. Even still, like, I didn't really celebrate my birthday growing up, so I'm like, it wasn't really a big deal.
Right. There's that added dimension of not having the like your birthday being interesting.
because I've had festivities for my birthday,
Mhm.
and it has always ended up being very enjoyable. And at the same time, I'm just kind of like, forget it. Like I just don't want to have to. I don't have to worry about that. Just because it seems
Yeah.
like there's so much going on.
Mhm.
But like that's just I don't know. It seems like one of those weird things where people and you know what? A friend of mine said that to me, and I said it back to them at a different time. I'm like, hey man, this is for everyone else. You don't get to decide. And he was like, well, we're using this as an opportunity to have fun with you, so you don't really get to decide. I was like, that's fair.
Gotcha. um, but yeah, so you explained the idea for the episode to me well beforehand, and then the title doesn't really convey it very well. So what are we doing today?
Well, it's really the idea that each generation thinks that they're the first ones to discover the wheel, right? Like
Yeah.
every experience that we have generationally tends to kind of happen again and again and again and again.
Mhm.
And we hear people explain it, be like, hey, when you're this age, this is what's going to happen. When you're this age, this is what's going to happen. When you're this age, this is what's going to happen. When you're this age, this is probably what's going to happen. And then after that, it's kind of dealer's choice. You may not be around. And it's like, okay. And like having lived through 40 years of that, going, oh, that was pretty spot on from the majority of it. It's like, and people are like, you know what I just figured out? I'm an adult now. And you're like, you're 19. You're not an adult. Shut your
Yeah.
mouth, sit down. You're an idiot. And it's weird because it's almost as if we keep on not learning. Recently I heard this expression from somebody where it's that during the years of puberty, children's parents become the dumbest people they know. And I was like, what? And it's more so like if you hear something from another adult, you'll accept that information as beneficial knowledge.
Yeah.
However, if you hear it from your own parents, you're like, oh, you guys are dumb. You don't know anything. And you're like, that's that's
It's kind
painfully
of
accurate.
true.
It's obscenely true. And it hurt my feelings. I'll tell you that. I was like, oh, I remember that.
I think it's supposed to be so. Like from an evolutionary standpoint, it seems like at the time that would have been like going out into the wilderness
Yeah,
caveman style. So like the want to get away from your parents is probably something along the lines of like if we stick together for too long, I'm
yeah,
like and we all die in a saber-toothed tiger attack, then our family line's gone. I need to separate in
correct.
case, you know.
Well,
Um
and not just that, but I think about it this way is that that is inherently a way for the strong to survive, right? Like I go somewhere else, I either do survive and let my genes carry, or I don't survive, and that's two birds with one stone. We're good.
mhm,
Like some other predator has become victorious, and my genes will stop going everywhere.
yeah.
It's a one of those. It's weird. It makes sense, but at the same time, like there has to be a bigger reason for it or a bigger understanding towards all that, you know? Why do you think that is though?
For why like teens like want to go be separate people or
Yeah. Well, why do we become such a-holes for puberty?
so your body's on fire, right? You're growing to roughly twice your size in the space of 5 years. Um,
Fair.
give or take the person, gender, it's family, etc.
Just
Like
just for everyone watching, I've done that just by getting fat and eating horrible food. So you could do that at any time in life. You don't have to wait for puberty. Just so you know.
and how well did that go for your personality then? Were you a
I can be very
kiss from a rose or no?
I can be very charming and funny. That has lasted the test of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, hey, so
Look,
far only two weddings, and let's hope there's not a third. So,
what I'm saying is that like you're essentially pulling one person out of another. As it's like that Pokemon Magnemite that evolves into three and becomes Magneton.
I don't know what that
That's
means.
puberty. Like,
It's
um,
well, and that's the crazy part, right? Is that there's no uh there's no easy way to go through puberty, right?
no, there's not.
It's like some people have an easier time of it. I remember one guy had really bad acne, and I was like, gross. And he was like, it's not my fault. I'm like, I don't care. It's still gross.
I think the thing that puts me off my mom the most is that she said the best time of her life school wise was middle school, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, also I forgot to turn this on. Sorry.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, no, it's just it's not supposed to be good for anyone. It's supposed to be like the middle
Yeah.
is never the best part of a joke. It's never the best part of a song. It's always it's the crucible that your personality is formed out of. Because I
Yeah.
don't think you don't keep a lot of what you were as a small child as an adult.
You
In
want to
regards to like,
rephrase that there, card boy, or
what do you mean? Like,
cards?
oh
Thank
no,
God.
I more meant like,
Oh.
I don't know, size, problem solving skills, things like that.
You're not helping there, giant head. I feel like you've had that situation for
Yeah.
longer than puberty, sir.
For giant head, yes, but like for most people, like most of the
Universe.
everything,
Yeah.
like
I don't know.
almost all of like your music taste, um your like way of dealing with authority of things like that. Most of that is made between the ages of like 12 and 18, I
True.
think.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
So it's never going to be pretty, it's never going to be fun, it's never going to be nice, which also made me angry at like all the shows on like Nickelodeon and Disney Channel growing up because they made middle school seem pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then I got there and I was like, "What the fuck did you? This is not what you told me it was going to be.
You sold me a bill of sale that's all lies." Yeah. No.
This
Once
is not
again,
Ned's declassified school survival guide."
actually, it's funny that you would say that Disney would do that because I've seen multiple TikToks and reels and shorts saying how
Mhm.
like this is how I spent my day in the worst place on earth, Disneyland. And just like they just started ripping on all the things that were horrible about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think you could stand up to that level of expectation that people have for
Mhm.
certain things, especially. And you know what, school I think is definitely one of those things because you will hear you hear all the best parts, you don't hear about the insane existence that is schooling in general.
Mhm.
And
It's
then
the
you're
same
like,
with nostalgia, right? Where everyone's like, "Oh,
yeah,
I want to go back to the like I miss 80s movies or whatever." And it's like you weren't there for all the crap that got forgotten by history.
true.
All that's left is Back to the Future and The Breakfast Club, you know?
And well, and there's a lot of people who thought they were like the smartest people in their neighborhood, and you're like, no. And the internet has served to make sure they know that they're dumb. But there's a lot of people who now congregate on the internet and they're like, we're all dumb together, makes us smart. You're like, that's not how
No.
that works. But
No.
yeah, it's
No.
very
A room full of Hodors is still a room full of Hodors, you know?
you mean heroes, sir. Just to be very clear. Heroes
Hold the
of fun.
door. Yeah.
Oh God.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. Like this is the thing. So also too today, my wife and I went and saw Oppenheimer, which was very, very well done. She did fall asleep in the middle of it, which was very
Whoa.
entertaining for me. Wow, it's okay.
It's a 3-hour long movie. I sort of
It,
get it.
it is a 3-hour long movie, and there are intentional lulls in the movie meant to, and then they immediately ramp back up. It's quite entertaining, and Christopher Nolan once again like did a great job. At the same time, like I kind of got a little bit angry at myself just because, well, not so much at myself, but just historically, I'm like, there was so much.
Yeah.
Sorry, it comes out like
No,
that.
it's funny. It's funny. Continue. Yeah.
Like I'm watching all these younger people. Hey, what's up, Joey?
What's up, Joey?
Joey got me
Tidings.
he got me all messed up on
On your trip.
Thursday. Yeah.
You went to Cleveland, right?
Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
survived, but Joey tricked me with a magical wizard scale. And then also dosed me with a lot of cookies. It was an amazing movie, but yes, I fell asleep just like a different Titanic.
I get the feeling
She's romantic. She's a very romantic lady.
Katie loves Titanic. If I watched it with her and fell asleep, she would like slam a book on my testicles or something.
Yeah, well, that's love. That's called true love. That's not.
I believe in a thing called love.
Yeah.
Just a little. But
yeah, it was. There was a lot of young people in that movie, or at least they were presumed to be younger.
Yeah.
That were doing amazing things, and I was like, I was just a great public speaker as a teen, and I was like, I'm feeling like I really missed the mark on that. The scale moment was the funniest thing I have seen in months.
I believe in tits. Joey, I hope you'll take happiness or take joy in the fact that I had to go buy weed for my father-in-law for his birthday. Because both he and my actual dad are just stoners, as they're old people. So that's fun.
Well, that was the thing is we Joey made a bunch of cookies, and by the way, so Joey was like, I make good cookies, which I was like, okay, Mr. Christie, let's just calm down. But they turned out to be very delicious, and then I ate 9 of them. That did not work into my advantage because I was also hitting this weirdo vape bong that Margot had that I'm telling you was I used every day I was there, and I'm telling you it was enjoyable. But luckily, you know what? Your dad is cooler than me. That's for sure.
You got to be super cool to have Parkinson's, man. That's like the pinnacle.
That's so true.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was the one advantage. So there's 2 things that I learned on this trip. Is number 1, party with people your age because they know how hard recovery is. Because everyone, I was like, hey, how is this going to affect me? And they're like, easy recovery. I'm like, okay, good. And everyone, like, as soon as I mentioned it, everyone knew exactly what I was talking about. Like, no, you're not going to feel like crap tomorrow. You're good. And then also too, Cole, who has had issues with being obese in the past, had great toilet paper, which I'm like, that's a traditionally fat guy thing where I'm like, you always have good toilet paper.
Yeah.
And a plunger.
Get out of here with the single ply.
It's single ply. Yeah. You are a 1940s German, sir. That's that. Yeah. If you bust out single ply when I come over to your house, I'm like, you're a racist. Okay.
I saw this TikTok where it's a guy, he buys a thing of 2-ply and then he uses this like contraption to like split it into two 1-ply, and I'm like, so you're the guy at every elementary school bathroom.
Immediately to jail.
I am actually a fan of single ply. What? Because you're insane? What are you talking about?
I'm a fan of single ply. You're a fan of pranking people, Joey. That's not the same thing.
That's true. He is.
Yeah. So Joey put me on a scale, and number 1, fully clothed. Which, let's be honest, that's not.
That adds like what, 2 or 3 pounds? Or
well, I have size 14 feet. I was wearing shoes. It's at least.
With shoes too. He wouldn't even let you take your shoes off. Come on.
You know what? Yeah. Whether he did or did not is not the issue. The fact was that I was weighed with shoes, and so I left here. So I had gotten down to 270, but then I also ate all weekend and I didn't fast, and then I went there. So too much padding on double pie. You're a monster, Joey. You're a monster.
He is.
So I ended up getting weighed in, and I was 310, and I was like, "Your scale is broken, sir. I am not okay with that." Bro, Atlas, do you know shoes are like satellite dishes? That's kind of true. Like they were big.
Holy fuck! Yeah. To the 310 or
probably,
something else?
Oh, well, no, he was there. He was aware. Yeah, and that's why I'm like, your scale, because he weighed in at a very, very modest. I think it was 253, which I'm like, number 1, fatso. I call baloney, and then number 2, then Cole's like 275, and he's like, I'm not 275. Then I weighed in at 310. I'm like, what is wrong with this machine, bro? I did not gain 40 pounds in 1 week. I was very angry. It was me and Cole both didn't sleep that night because of that. We were like, oh my God, we're so fat. What has happened? It was very emotional.
Well, it's probably his scale's broken. Like there are 2 scales in my apartment because Katie and I each had one in our respective places. And then when we moved in, we never got rid of one. We just have both.
Of course.
So like whenever I weigh myself on both because there's about a 3 to 4 pound difference.
Yep.
Which not 40, but what I do know is that after these last 2 weeks where I've been exercising like while teaching kids like basketball or dodgeball or whatever the thing is, in
Yeah.
90-degree heat, I've lost 15 pounds.
Well, listen, that's the kind of
just from like the amount of sweat that I'm losing.
I can only imagine. Yeah. So like imagine the biggest white New Balances you have ever seen, but wider, and that's Xeno shoes. Yeah, that's
Oh
about
my
accurate.
god. Yeah.
And then, hey, what's up, Paul? How you doing, buddy? Sorry. So I know Paul had actually reached out to Joey to meet with me in Buffalo. I'll be honest with you, Paul, I just felt like crap at that day, and I did not want to not have a good time with you. So, but
Gotcha.
Joey and I were talking about maybe meeting in Buffalo and stuff like that because I'm like, it's not that bad going one stop. It's like going from Toronto to Buffalo is one bus. It's not that big of a deal. However, waiting for another bus and then going, oh, it sucks. It sucks so bad. So bad. That's why. So Paul's in Buffalo, obviously plowing the fuck out of it because he's a gentleman. But ultimately, yeah, because I stopped in Detroit going.
Mhm.
That was wasn't too bad, but there was like mad traffic, and like I think I had a bus driver that like two of the bus drivers were kind of a little heavy on the brakes.
Oh,
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for understanding, buddy.
you start getting nauseous, and
Yeah, well, no, there was just like constantly boom, 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 and the thing is, so I'm not sure what's happening, but as I'm decreasing or changing my body dimensions,
and
I'm
working out to "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" or whatever
well,
the thing is of that day.
absolutely like a
Yeah.
gentleman.
Yeah.
I keep on sliding off seats, so it's like I'm
Oh.
slowly developing a buttocks now, but it's not developing fast enough so that like it gets quite painful to sit for on uncomfortable chairs. So, like movie theater seats, no problem. Why? Because they want to be comfortable. Bus seats are I'm assuming manufactured somewhere in the pits of the ninth level of hell
Yeah.
because they are horrible. And also too, just for references or understanding of people, I want you all to understand is the person who intentionally sits beside someone on a bus, you're a horrible human being. Just if there's no other seats, fine. But if there are other seats, get out of there. Don't do that. You're a horrible human being.
Speaking of horrible human being, have you ever done the thing where you don't want anyone to sit next to you, so you sit down, pour a little bit of water on the seat next to you?
I have not.
I've done that twice in my life, and I was not in a good mood both days. It was like one of those where I'm like, I know I'm a shit person, but
I honestly would actually think that I wouldn't believe that you would be that savage. But at this point in time, I'm like, they have those. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but it's like a cup with ice cream turned over, and it's all spilled out, but it's all plastic. So you just put it on a chair, and it just looks like somebody messed it up.
oh,
So it's just acrylic, and then you can like keep it in your backpack for later.
okay.
But
See, that's smart. I should probably just do that instead of
I'm gonna get it
the
for your wedding
water.
gift. Look up Happy Jacks in Fort Erie. We should meet for dinner. Best food ever. I am definitely going to look that up right now, sir,
Mm.
because Happy Jacks just sound great.
That's funny
At least
because
you're so cheap. I don't know why. Like maybe,
I
but
think he means because of the pouring the water. That's not about being cheap. That's about being like curmudgeonly or antisocial. I don't think that's cheap necessarily, unless he's talking about something else. Um, but
Happy Jack. Oh, looks pretty good.
yeah. So wait, you got sick while you were on your trip?
Like bodily. It was
Oh,
like my joints. So this is the thing is I fast like 3 to 4 or 5 days every single week.
okay.
And I do that and then I eat really, really, really cleanly because and that keeps kind of all the inflammation down and stuff because I'm old and it like think about it this way. I have the joints of like a old boxer and
Yeah.
like so nothing like even today I tried to open a jar of pickles and I couldn't do it with my bare hands. I used a rubber glove to try and open it and I couldn't do it. And I'm like, all right, no pickles. I can't. I couldn't even muscle it out. Did I puke? Yes, I did, and it was horrible. Just to be very clear. Cheap people are antisocial. No, I'm not sure about that.
You can be cheap and just be like, I don't know, like for yourself, right? I don't think being
Yeah.
cheap necessarily means you're antisocial.
I think there's a difference between people who are frugal and people who are cheap. And I'll tell you right now, because spending money does not make you happy. Saving money doesn't make you happy. It's being comfortable that you can purchase what you want gives you happiness. It's so
Yes.
that I have the ability to, oh, if I want that, I can just buy it. that is a level of comfort. Like, I need a massage. Oh, I don't have to wait 3 weeks. I'm going to go for a massage today. Why? Because I can do that. That's an advantage.
Yeah. But it's funny because like when I went on our supposed to be Cleveland trip for shows, I got this like wicked fever the third night I was there.
Yeah, I remember.
And I had to cancel one of the shows and just like sat in my hotel room watching Archer all night, just being like, get it out of me.
Which isn't necessarily the worst, but
it isn't the worst. But I was up there to do stand up. I wanted to do comedy, and then I just got stuck with a fever.
Honestly, the first place we went, which is the Grog Shop, which Marco did some time because he was practicing for the weekend, and they're like, "Do you want to do some time?" I'm like, "Not really," and it was more so just a surreal experience of me, Cole, and Marco talking, because I'm like, I can't comprehend that we're in real life right now. I was also high off my tits, thanks to Marco. So I'm like, I can't. I see you guys as people in boxes. I can't see you as real people. And the funny thing was that both of them acted exactly how they act, and I was like,
"Well, yeah."
Well, so this is the problem, Matt.
That's kind of like when a kid comes up to you and you're like, "Dude, did you know this?" And you're like, "Yes, you idiot, I know." Like that's you
a little
when
bit.
You're high.
That is true, and I want to go to Ashwaken Speedway out of there. So there was hell yeah, Paul, that'd be awesome.
Marco is more of a stereotype than you think. No, I think I'm pretty on point with how much of a stereotype he is.
And that's the thing is, like, the whole trip I flew too close to the sun because like I'm out of practice with I was telling Shell today was that I'm like, since January my drug of choice has been ibuprofen. I'm like, I'm a loser now. I am completely out of practice with being cool. So when
I'm gonna need you to join a PTA post haste if you're gonna fit with an ibuprofen as your
Marco hooked me up with cigarettes, and I'm like, I haven't smoked in like a year and a half. Then we were hitting that pipe hard, and then Joey's edibles, and I'm like, yeah, I am not in good shape. But hey, I got home, and that's what matters. So.
Oh yeah, people were super nice about offering me puffs when I was there. Cleveland people are so nice.
Everyone was really cool, and we went to a Greek festival, which was so. This was the funny thing was that I enjoyed it, but I more enjoyed it. Will you?
Okay, for people listening, well, you lost half a baby cow. Your joints are gonna hurt.
That is true. I've never seen someone take advantage of all you can eat edibles policy as much as bro. I hammered those cookies. They were good cookies, and bro, I was on vacation, so and then I was like, I got more high, and I'm like, any more cookies? And he was like, why are you doing this?
Like, you ate them all.
I did.
It was like Randy Quaid in Vegas Vacation.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Katie and I watched that a couple months ago, actually.
It's very enjoyable. Listen,
because we watched a bunch of the National Lampoons.
Everyone loves Randy Quaid as well, so that's just scientific fact. Okay.
Oh, who doesn't?
No,
shitter's clogged. Yeah.
You know what? That was the other thing. Was Cole had good toilet paper, and there was a plunger right in the bathroom. I'm like, you know what? It's just nice to know when you're having guest people have a plunger available within sight, because you know what? I don't want to have to be like, open the door and be like, hey, don't smell what's going on here, but can you pass me a plunger? And people going, oh fuck. Yeah. You don't want to have that.
This is why you don't like if you have a plunger, if you have to put it under the sink, fine, but like next to the toilet. There's like a little nook back there. Just stick it on the ground. You're fine.
One side is for the toilet scrubber, the other side is for the plunger.
Yeah.
It's totally reasonable.
It's not hard to figure out. And then in our case we have like a toilet paper stand where like you stack them.
Sure, why not?
Like that's
Listen, that's it. Well, that's how you express to people that you have wealth.
Yeah.
You're like, listen, all my toilet paper, it's magical.
So regarding the topic at hand, I had a bit of an experience this last week where I noticed that a lot of kids will wear t-shirts and not know what the thing is on the t-shirt.
Yes.
I don't think that's new necessarily, but I think it's gotten worse in the last 15 years or so.
Sure.
And the incident that happened was it was one of my kindergarten kids, and she had a Def Leppard t-shirt, right? And I was like, oh, Def Leppard, I love Def Leppard. And she's like, what's Def Leppard? I'm like, your shirt. And she's like, oh, I don't know what it is. I'm like, well, and then I'm thinking, oh, her parents. It's probably like her parents' old shirt
Maybe.
or whatever, right? Like, ask your mom to play you some Def Leppard when you get home today. She's like, okay. Comes back the next day. So my mom doesn't know who Def Leppard is, and I
Oh,
was like, okay. So now the plot thickens. I'm like, it's her. It was her shirt, right? She's like, yeah. And then I go, well, what? How old is your mom? Because kids don't give a shit. They'll tell you how
yeah.
old
She's
kids.
1,000 years old.
No, no, no. She goes like she was born in 1988, and I was like, she's fucking older than me, and she doesn't know who Def Leppard is. And you're right. And Joey says my daughter wears a bunch of my old band T-shirts. I know. I saw the AC/DC one in that one picture.
Sure.
But and that's fine. It's okay to like wear your parents' old T-shirts, not really know who they are. But for the parents to not know what it is,
Listen,
come on, man. And one song, pour some sugar on me, Armageddon it, something.
it's not even that. The problem is that people have taken dressing up their kids too far. Like, put them in a potato sack, they'll be fine. Okay, they don't need. And they're like, I have designer clothes for my kid. I'm like, you make poor financial.
They're gonna
decisions.
grow out of it in like 2 months. Yeah,
if that, you're right, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a poor financial decision. That's all that is.
Who I once ran into a woman who never heard of Green Day. Really?
Jesus.
Send her ass on holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we're gonna be famous, just for puns like that. Listen, all I'm saying is that
It just drives me nuts. Like, it's not even like you have to know like the name of every band member. Like, it's not like I was when I was 14. I mean, like, just one song.
There are
Please?
two sides. There are two sides to everything, and you know what? People who either know no songs, or they're like, you have to know every song unless you can wear their shirt. I'm like, listen, man, I went and saw Elton John live, and you know what? I did not know all the songs, not even close. And I was like, hey, he's a really talented guy. I like it.
Tiny Dancer, Benny and the Jets.
It was a great song.
That's all I got off the top of my head.
There were a few others that I was like, oh yeah, man, this is a wicked song. But I was like, I don't. Like, I just knew he put on a good show. He's a great performer, very talented guy, and I'm like, yeah, great. That's a great for me. That's a great time. It was a very enjoyable experience, and I'm glad we went. But if someone's like, you have to list all the songs, number one, fuck off. Number two, get fucked. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, not one song, for shame.
The way I used to pick concerts to go to is if I knew most of the band's discography. Sure. So like I saw Van Halen and AC/DC and Black Sabbath in like the late 2000s, early 2010s because I knew most of their songs. But like after going to that Elton John concert a few years ago, where like I just knew the 2 songs, I had a great time. And I think if concerts weren't as expensive as they were, I would probably be doing it for that reason, where you know like 1 or 2 songs, and you go for what else do they have?
Absolutely. But that's the weird part is, and we're at this transition point with music, especially where I don't think that musicians are getting the rewards of playing music.
No, they're not.
And they're like, not just monetarily, I mean like even just the emotional connection with their fans.
Oh,
because it's so isolated, because well, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Right? Yeah. Like, too bad. So that idea that you would be able to do that, it's like, oh, you're not going to be able to connect with people, but also to my tickets are $900. You're like, 900, get fucked. That's, and then you're going to see the resurgence. Number one is I think everyone's going to become a pirate soon, which I am very much down for.
That's kind of what's happening with the streaming services, right? And with the writer's strike and everything.
Well, the cool part is that I think we've been overwhelmed with new content to the nth degree. Right? Like, we just have so much happening right now where a lot of it's horrible, right? And then you have like, I love like, we just watched the rest of The Witcher. I have to get to reading the books. I haven't read the books, but we have them. So, but at the same time, like, they were saying how he's such a pain in the ass. Henry Cavill was such a pain in the ass because he's like, that's not how it's written in the book. We shouldn't do it that way. We should do it this way. And they were like, oh, fine. And you're like, so that means the people who were producing it feel that someone who's going to hold them accountable to what should be happening is too much of a pain in the ass. And I'm like, none of that makes any sense. If anything, you should have a nerd for hire on every one of those sets to be like, I'm sorry, sir, that's not exactly how it's written. You're going to have to do it alternatively. I think that's fair. But they're like,
Yeah.
no, we're just going to do whatever. And you're like, no, that's not how life works, right?
Yeah, or just like you piss off the fan base for the already existing property, and
Absolutely.
for possibly new people, if it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to,
Absolutely.
then you doubly screwed yourself.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that was one of the things where, like I think I said it last week, was that Michael Bay and Bryan Singer both I would like to punch in the face because they have ruined my childhood, and I hate that.
Transformers and
X-Men.
X-Men.
So because and the reason was because they took like 4 or 5 different storylines, crammed them all together, and then just made a different ending, and they're like, ah, creative,
Yeah.
and you're like, that's not creative. You're a piece of shit, right? And
I
for
mean,
doubly worse.
yeah. I mean, it's okay to like do something new with already existing characters, but like it
That,
definitely sucks when you just try and do it but worse.
but
You
that's
know?
what the Infinity Gauntlet was.
Yeah.
Infinity Gauntlet, they're like, they did it. So a lot of the Marvel movies have followed similar stories
Hmm.
and then had a different yet same result ending. And you're like, that works, right? So that way they were able to execute their idea in a different way,
Hmm.
but you have the same end result, which is important to the continuation of the story. And you're like, that has a lot of different wheels and cogs and things, and it's hard to keep in going the right way. So you have limited amount of freedom, but that's what they did. And that's why I'm like, okay, I can respect as much as, apparently people are going, oh my God, we don't need another Marvel movie. You need more. And when I say more, I mean all of them. I want a daytime drama series like General Hospital, but done by the Marvel guys. That's what I want. Okay.
Oh, I was like, that just sounds like WandaVision, but I
A
see what you're
little
getting
bit,
at.
but
Yeah.
I want more people.
The meme with Adam Driver. More.
And
No,
then followed with good soup. It's just that's
yeah.
fine.
So like the whole idea of all these constant reboots, it's bad in terms of like possibly new things getting
Yeah,
um discovered and made and things like that, but one thing it's good for is having a continuing uh like continuity for maybe younger people to get interested
sure.
in.
Yeah,
Like Pokemon making a new game every 3 years means that people like me who learned to read from Pokemon Red, I shit you not, that's real. Um because I got it this summer before kindergarten.
yeah,
So, got to learn how to leave the house somehow.
yeah.
So people like me are now having kids who like their first game is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And it's been, almost 30 years later. Uh, and that's good in regards to like we're getting more of people and their kids having similar interests in
Yes.
like the same property, which is like a double-edged sword. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, everyone has experienced certain degrees of that have been painful, right? Like
Mhm.
I have an obscene amount of Transformers and Lego in my house and figures. Let's call them action figures
Yeah.
for now. But that like I can't. If kids are like,
Yeah.
"Hey, can my kid play with your toy?" I'm like, "I'll cut your
No.
child's
I'll
hand off."
fucking cut you. Yeah.
I'll cut them off,
Yeah.
and then I'll be like, and I'll burn the stumps so they can never. They'll be all stumpy for the rest of their life because I'm
I'm
like,
gonna
no,
I'm gonna go
that's
Jamie
right,
Lannister on your fucking kid's hand.
absolutely right, and like
Uh,
that's where you're just like, yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm not one for that, right? Like if you have kids going, good, they can't go into that room. Why not? I'm like, because they'll die. They'll die a horrible, horrible death as soon as they look at my toys, right? Like
Or like
I have an entire like shelving just filled with like comic books and Lego figurines and like they're all posed and stuff.
Mhm.
It is not meant for children. I'll tell you that right
Yeah.
now. So, but at the same time, you're right. It's
Yeah. But at
having
least like okay,
yeah,
so for I put up a meme on the Generation Dan Twitter a couple days ago where it's like Jerry and Newman, and it's the boomers being like, how does it feel now that the shoes on the other foot not being the cool ones anymore? And then the millennials are like, I'm good. Like it's because we still have a couple of threads in with the Zoomers and now the Gen
sure.
Alpha
Yeah.
where we can at least have that instead of like between the 50s and the 80s was such a large
Yeah.
delta in culture and in like change
Yeah.
with music, with everything, where it just felt completely foreign to
Yeah.
those people.
Well, see, and this is the thing too, is like millennials are in this situation where they're like, oh, another thing that we're not going to have any benefit that everyone else has gotten. Yeah, okay, fuck it, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm like, they're like,
Throw
oh,
another one on the pile. Like,
yeah, right. It's like,
yeah,
oh, another thing that doesn't work anymore. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, it's
yeah,
hard work and putting my head to the grindstone, not working either. Thanks a lot, right? Like,
yeah.
that's fine.
Mhm.
I did that and I was a failure. So that's just so everyone understands. And I was born in 1980. So
Yeah.
ta-da!
Very, very end of the Xers, very end of the millennials. We need to
Oh yeah,
get like
but I still have sausage fingers like a
yeah.
clown. It's not
I need to get like I've been trying to get one of the dudes from the Daily Zeitgeist on this show just
Hmm.
because I want to see, especially like as they're like one of them is like a pretty firm Gen X and the other one's like an elder millennial. So I think it'd be interesting to get the latter because he's like between us.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, realistically, that's the cool part about it is that there are it's gotten so weird where you have these huge blocks of time for each generation, and now they're like, oh, you were born in these 3 years, then technically you're an elder millennial
no.
generation X or
Yeah.
something or other.
This
The
is why I
hypotenuse.
like
Yeah.
this is why I like to think of it like a gradient
Yeah.
because things can pull you in different directions of like
Sure.
how old your parents are, your siblings, your
Huge.
like where you grew up.
Yeah.
Things like that can change the way you look at the world.
Did you have dial
And
up? Did you have high speed? That's a fair, like that
yeah,
in and of
that
itself. What age did you get a
mhm,
cell phone? Right.
yeah. Like the way I measure what a millennial is where like were you in school during 9/11?
Yes.
Because everyone pretty much had the same interaction when 9/11 happened, which was they're coming for us next. Watch it on TV with us, kids. Like it just didn't. Like I remember being in second grade when that was happening. I'm like, I don't think we're supposed to be seeing this. I thought we were doing math or something.
I was in college and I was like, I don't know how to deal with this information. Like I was just like, okay. And a couple people were like, do you think they're gonna hit Canada next? I'm like, for what? For our trees? Shut up, idiot. Like that was,
Yeah.
and then they're like, are they gonna hit the rest of the United States? I'm like, let's hope it's not us. I don't know. It's whatever, man.
Yeah.
It was
And,
a very weird type of situation, that's for sure.
mhm.
And I was engaged to be married at that point. No, almost engaged. Soon engaged. I think I was engaged in the next like couple months, but like
Hey, look, I know there was a big tragedy on U.S. soil just a few miles from us, but will you marry me?
I think it was before. I don't remember when I got engaged. I remember my first wedding because
Okay.
that was January 6th,
Oh,
2002. I want to say.
okay.
But yeah, we were only engaged for like we were dating for like a year and then engaged for like 6 months. And so I think I got engaged.
You might have been engaged
before.
by then because
Yeah.
September, October, November, December,
November.
January,
Yeah.
February. Yeah,
So
January.
I think we got engaged just before because then I was in Greece and then I came home and I was the only Bletsis that was home and it was like, this is uncomfortable.
What, just being in the house by yourself?
Well, no, all of my siblings were so my one brother who recently passed away,
Yeah.
he has a very dark complexion. So you would think he's Middle Eastern or from Southeast Asia. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the same with my my aunt has the same skin tone. And it's weird because it's not like olive skin like my dad's, and my mom was quite fair. So it is weird thing in our history. But when he went to leave, they're like, well, we're married because his wife is very, very, very fair skinned. So they were like, how do we know you guys are married? They're like, we're married. We have the same name on our passports.
Same name, rings, no? Like,
yeah. So
yeah.
in turn, they were like, well, how can we prove it? And they're like, what do you mean? How can you prove like because he had dark skin, they were just like, because remember, outside of North America, not even outside of Canada and the US, racism is alive and well everywhere else, people. Just everywhere else is very racist. And entertainingly so at some points, but at the same time, what are you gonna do? So him being of dark skin, they're like, you might be a terrorist. He's like, I'm Canadian. They're like, prove it. He's like, passport? They're like, don't care. Like, so for years they took a copy of their marriage certificate and stapled it and put it inside their passport just in case. And I'm like, because in case you had to prove that you were married. And I'm like, that's insane. But
that's so crazy to me that the passport with the same last name and the rings weren't enough. No, nothing.
No, everyone, and like, you got to understand too, is that everyone wasn't just on high alert. They were like, something somewhere, something is happening, and we could be the reason it happened. So don't be the reason. Like, that was, everyone was like, not my fault, not my, like, I don't want to be involved in any of this. Like,
everyone was like overcorrecting.
Not just overcorrecting, but just be like, I'm not signing anything. I'm not checking a box. I don't want to be a party. If this comes back, because remember, that was the big thing, was like, all these guys were let through and nobody did background checks. And like, they did this with a box cutter. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? Right. Like, you paralyze an entire country in a matter of hours with
a box cutter,
and, ridiculous amount of things that transpired that everyone should have been like, this doesn't jive, right? Like, we need lessons on how to take off, not how to land. You're like, that's a weird statement. Grab that guy, like, just immediately.
So. Or even worse is like, they released Love Actually a little after, and there's a scene where somebody runs to the gate to like catch somebody before they go on the plane. And people are like,
not anymore.
Not anymore, guys. Like,
don't worry, it's just a kid. He's a terrorist. Take him out. Like, that's not, like, immediately, right? You don't know. That's the problem, is that and this is where I find it so unique. Like, getting back to our topic, is like the idea that we don't have the comfort of trust in our knowledge and experiences anymore, because they're constantly under attack. And I'm not sure if you heard of this thing called the Mandela effect, Atlas. Essentially, it's right. Like, we can't believe what is happening because you're like, can we prove that?
I don't think it's even necessarily that. It's like some of the, like, because the first time as a kid where you're like, I think my parents are fucking bullshit. Like, there's that first thing where you figure out it's a lie, and then the facade of all adults know everything starts to crumble.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that comes from, where you're like, well, if that's not true, what else isn't true? And I think it's kind of healthy to have that mindset, to be like constantly reassessing whatever's around you. But it's also really fucking annoying as the adult in that equation, where they're like, look, motherfucker, I was here. I've been here.
I lived it.
I have lived it. And then
that's the weird part, is that you can't do that, right? Like,
this is why, like, with my siblings, so they're on the precipice of they're preteens right now, right? I'm trying to help them in a way where it doesn't come off as confrontational to them. Because if I just gave them advice the way my parents gave me advice, that would be their reaction. So I'm trying to do it in like the most delicate way possible, where I'm like, okay, this thing happened. This is what I did when I was your age. Do with that what you will. Where, like, you put the ball in their court to figure it out.
Yeah.
And they can take it or don't, but like, you did your due diligence as the older sibling, and in my near future as a teacher, to do that with the kids, and like hope they figure your shit out, because it's half making your own mistakes, half watching the people in front of you and not doing the same.
Well, like, there's a certain element to that, and then a certain element that's not, right? Because the problem is that we're not in a situation. Oh yeah, it says we were supposed to have a guest, and then
so
shenanigans.
We didn't hear back from her. Sorry, Joey. Hopefully in the future, I'm going to see if I'll see her this week. So I'm going to be like, hey, sorry about that. Maybe we can reschedule. Blah blah blah.
Exactly. That was what really happened. But no, so if you can't trust what's happened already, then we have this cycle of people trying to reinvent the wheel, which I think is hilarious to watch, because you're like, that's not how that's going to work, right?
It's going to happen, because they can't. like when you're a kid, it's hard to like understand other people. All you
Yeah.
have is your experience.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, man, I just figured out how to read like 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and like, insert the thing here.
Yeah.
But what I will say is with my younger brother, I'm trying to teach him that like curse, just don't do it around the adult. Like you got to be careful with it.
Yeah.
Do it
Know
like
your audience.
South Park, right? It's a spice. You can't dump it all on the table all at once. You need a little bit here and there.
Be
Right?
like South Park,
Yeah.
except Cartman. Don't be like
Yeah,
Cartman.
don't be Cartman. Be like Stan or Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah. That's smart. Or
Mhm.
whose sister has the braces? Who's the devil?
Stan's sister.
Stan's sister. Be like Stan's sister. She knows when certain people are around, you have to be innocent and helpful
Yeah.
and very kind and loving. And then when they leave, you can punch your brother right in the face. That's science.
You mean my sister? No.
It's everyone's sister, bro.
Yeah.
Everyone's sister. Yeah. I had a sister who was 8 years older than me. Oh,
Mine was only 3 years older than me. That must have.
Well, the advantage I had was I was bigger than her by like the age of 12. So
I had to wait till I was like 9 or 10, and then even then it was pretty even killed. Like I couldn't just do it like against the wall. You had to like square up and get in there.
I could.
Well, good for you.
It wasn't. I got my ass kicked by my dad afterward, but that's okay. It was worth it. Sometimes you got to draw that line in the sand. No, that's just, see, this is the thing is that why I feel like we should have a system that punishes people who misinform, like people who actually try and deceive. Like how many times as a young person, like you had the internet. Did you have the internet on your phone when you were a kid or no?
I didn't get the internet on my phone until 2010.
2010.
So I was 16 at the time.
So you were still a teenager and probably a pain in the ass. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah. But like, my dad was pretty on the ball in terms of like getting on technology, so we had internet fairly early in the house and things like that. And but in regards to like internet on the phone, not for a while.
Yeah. Well, there was a time in the early 2000s I didn't have a cell phone. I just had a home phone. It drove my ex-wife insane, and I loved every second of it. I was like, "Hey, if you want to get me, I'm at home. If I'm not at home, don't talk to me. I'm busy." Yeah. You know why? Because I'm out doing shit. Like,
did you have a 90s rapping answering machine?
No answering machine. Because it was the same phone line as my parents. So because we lived with my parents, and that was it. And it was a great time to be alive. I loved it. Because cell phones are too. I am not available for every whim and phone call. That's insanity.
I think the important lesson to take from this discussion is that kids are going to do this for as long as there are kids, and they're going to realize it when they become adults, and then they're going to pass that on to the next generation of kids who will continue on to do it. And I don't think there's a way to stop it. It's just kind of how you behave as a human.
I think the more important thing is to make sure children realize that the decisions that they make as an adolescent will stick with their understanding of how life is lived for a significant amount of time, and it's extremely difficult to break. So at an early age, I think it's really important for them to choose, at least to start to choose a vector with regards to their future. I don't think that you can make them be like, well, you have to choose a job and this is the job that you're going to do and that's it. You say, okay, what kind of, like, you start identifying yeses and nos, like go, no go
situation. Or just start thinking about what you want to do with your life.
Actively.
Because like for us millennials, it was like, go to college, you'll get a job, you'll be fine. Think about it then. And then we got there and then.
Supplies. There's not even a job. There's nothing. Just poor, unadulterated. By the way, you can sell your feet pics. And you're like, what? Why did we go from college and a job to feet pics? They're like, not just that. Exclusively feet pics. You're like,
all right, onlyfans.com/Generation Dan. No, no, for real. Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us at Generation Dan on Twitter or Instagram. You can find me at Atlas Novak on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or my YouTube channel, The Epileptic Comic, or my other podcast, Nexus at Night, which is about Cardfight Vanguard.
Yeah.
How's about you, Dino?
You can find
There you
me
are,
at-
Zaru.
Hey, what's happening?
Yeah.
Dino the Genetic Marvel, as you can see here. I am now figuring out, now that I'm recovering from the 3 days of excitement in Cleveland, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do at nighttime to start a new series, because I finished on an odd number, and it's extremely unnerving. I finished on episode number 47 for Unsupervised Consequences.
Oh.
And I'm leaving it uneven, and it's very, very difficult for me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to start something new. And that's why, but I am doing reels of exercise stuff, and I'm going to do movie reviews today for Oppenheimer and Barbie, because that should
That's
be
good.
interesting.
Yeah, and then so I guess the last thing is to be said is what Joey's comment here about the elephant in the room with millennials is that a lot of parents didn't know dick about student loans. Damn right. And now we have to live with the consequences. Bye, everybody.